Hi everyone.
Hey
No
Praveen.
worries.
Hey Priya.
Right.
Hi.
Hi Priya.
How are you?
Oh, I think we lost Priya for a second there. Can you repeat,
Yes.
Priya? So, what's the plan for today?
So it's about we will be. Come on, Priya, take over.
She might be having some connection issues.
Yeah. So the main thing is we will be looking into the full stack path. So a lot of people currently are looking for full stack developers, and this is the best time we can go ahead and tell them what would be the best way to go for. And Priya, over to you. You are the person who is gonna lead both of us, and yeah, also do look at the comments what people are saying, and there you go.
Hello all. I'm very glad to be part of this network. And first of all, let me thank Praveen and Eddie for giving me such a wonderful opportunity to be part of this webinar. So I think you all know both of them. So before that, there are some new guys to this session. So I would like to have a quick intro about both of you all. So when I speak Eddie, they are part of this day. So about Eddie Jaoude, he is an open source advocate. He is famously known as the open source fanatic. And if you have any doubts regarding open source, you could ask Jaoude as well. And now speaking about Praveen Kumar, he is my mentor, and I came to know about him so recently. I'm very glad to have him as my mentor, and he's a front-end web developer in staff and also an evangelist. And I forgot to say about Eddie once that he's one star in the GitHub profile. And congratulations to Eddie Jaoude for being a star in GitHub.
Thank you.
And also about Praveen, yeah. And also about Praveen, he has been once top ranked in the Stack Overflow, and also he's an awardee of Microsoft Most Valuable Professional Award.
Hey,
So
by the
it's
way,
a
it has
great
been revoked
opportunity,
now,
you all.
so
And
I'm going to ask Microsoft once again, please, Microsoft, if you're seeing here, please nominate once again for me.
yeah, okay, fine. Now about, I will be new figure to you all. I'm Haripriya and I'm a final year CSC graduate. I am from Kerala, the God's own country, and I'm currently serving as the Global Ambassador of Women Tech Network. And that's all about me.
Hey, you're also the national awardee as well. You two got a awesome
Yeah,
Karmaveer Chakra Award. There you go.
Karmaveer Chakra Award. Yeah, fine. I'm waiting for that award ceremony as well.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Right. So the thing is, currently, a lot of students are looking at our videos now, and the main thing we need to talk about
Yeah.
is about the full stack web application development. So a lot of people are looking forward to go become full stack developer. Eddie, what is your idea? Just start with a quick thing, and
Sure. So, what I would recommend is don't try and take everything on at once because you'll get a bit confused. So my biggest suggestion is if you do want to become a full stack developer, start with the front end or back end, like pick one. Yes, I'm not saying to limit yourself to that forever, but at least just for the beginning, if it's in the early days, get a little bit familiar with that. Not necessarily an expert, just a bit familiar, and then start branching into the other side of the stack. And if you use languages like JavaScript, then it's going to be the same language on the front end and back end, which then again makes that transition a lot easier.
yeah, I should be actually showing my Stack Overflow T-shirt now.
I'm wearing my Google t-shirt.
Wow. Okay, I'll shut up.
I don't have anything to show.
I'll show my GitHub star kind of trophy.
Oh
and
yeah,
and tell us
fine.
how we can get that. So how do you get nominated, and how do you, like,
So
I
you
know
have
it's
to
a bit slightly out of stuff, but Go on.
Sure, I'll be really quick. So to give you a quick idea, it's you have to get nominated by somebody who's already a star, is my understanding. And then even when you get nominated by someone who's already a star, then GitHub reviews the application, what your contributions are to open source and GitHub. And then they put you on the stars page. And at the moment, there are only 12 people in the world on there, and I'm one of those. So it's such a great honor to
Great
be
honor.
on there. Yeah, absolutely. And it does really, I can't talk about open source enough, and I'm not going to talk about it too much. I want to derail the conversation. We'll get into that later on.
But yeah,
Okay, fine.
basically it's all about like everything is mixed and matched. Yeah. So a lot of people are now asking about what is a best way to like do deployments and what is the view on jQuery, which is actually a good way to start to. Yeah, but let us start with our journeys to full stack development. So Eddie, start from your side.
You want me to go first? Okay, so I've got 15 years of experience, so I want to try and go over it quite quickly. And then originally I started off with PHP and Java, so I started more backend. And although I was doing the front end on the server side back in the old kind of server side rendering days, I know it's coming back round again. And then about 10 years ago, I got into open source, and that really changed the landscape for me because it allowed me to network with other engineers from big organizations like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, etc., and GitHub itself. And that opened lots more doors for me. And then I got more into the front end when Angular 1 came out, and then the newer versions of Angular, React, and Vue. And even before that, with things like Backbone and jQuery. And I know someone's mentioned jQuery, and we'll probably address that shortly in more detail. But just getting involved, whatever you learn now, even if you learn something that's slightly out of date, it still helps you. It's still a programming language, it's still a library, and they're all very similar. So I learned jQuery back in the day, and I don't use it anymore and haven't for a while, but it still helped me understand JavaScript and the ecosystem. And then about 3 years ago, I started my YouTube channel as well. And again, that opened more doors for me. And it's not just about creating content, it's about sharing your journey and your learning. So I really highly recommend everyone to do that. Get involved in open source and get involved in Twitter and YouTube. And not just about gaming, but more about what you're learning at the moment. And if you've learned something, you share it. My biggest regret in my entire career is not starting open source sooner, but going back 10, 11 years, there wasn't GitHub, so it was a lot harder back then. You had to sign lots of forms. It was a bit of a nightmare. So I can make my peace with that, but not starting YouTube sooner and writing blogs or podcasts or whatever works for you, but creating content, putting myself out there more. Because putting yourself out there more on open source is great, but that's more focused a little bit at the techies. Whereas when you do YouTube and blog posts and you start reaching out not just to the techies, but to the hiring managers and other people, and they start connecting you with more techies, and they do complement each other. But that's my biggest regret, not starting sooner. That's my biggest advice to everybody. You've all got
That was
something that you can share. I think even if someone's learning, I don't know, Vue or whatever it is, and they've only done a month of it, you've learned a month that someone else hasn't even started yet. So you could encourage somebody else to get into it and teach them what you've learned. And that will make you get better as well at the same time.
nice. Mine goes on like I would like to start with my story. So mine goes on like forever, like a long time before. So what happened was when I was studying my sixth standard, so back in India, it is called, we have this standard system for those who are coming from other countries. We have like first standard to 10th standard one way, and then K to 12, kindergarten to 12th, and then after 12 plus 3 to 4 years of education, we will be doing like 4 years of engineering, and then we get into a company. That's the way our education system works. So coming to my life, initially I started with programming, any kind of a programming, during my sixth standard. So it's like 6 years after your kindergartens. And then on that time, I was introduced to this book called Learn Visual Basic 6 in Record Time. it was by Steve Brown, and thanks to my my friend, my neighbor, he's Bhaskar uncle. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Bhaskar uncle and Anjali. If they are here, they will be like really happy to hear that. So that was my first
Yeah.
ever book to learn. I mean, like that was the first time I got myself like, wow, this is called as programming. This is so good. And from my sixth standard and seventh standard, I was working in Visual Basic 6 and everything. And I even created my own encyclopedia after looking at 1998 World Book Encyclopedia, etc. And after that, that I thought like, okay, I created all these applications for Windows machines. Back in those days, I was using Windows 98, and I thought like it doesn't run in it just runs in my computer alone. I want it to run everywhere. That's what I thought. Like for example, it could be like a smart washing machine or a smart fridge where there could be a web kind of an input. I want to see that in that, but unfortunately I was not able to do anything, or maybe I want everyone else to access. So at that point of time, I came to know there is something called as a web. The World Wide Web existed, and since I know only ASP, since I know only Visual Basic, I thought, how should I transform my Visual Basic skills, Visual Basic 6 skills to the web? So at that point of time, there is something called as PWS, Personal Web Server by Microsoft. It is the precursor to Internet Information Services. So at that point of time, there is something I learned, that there is something called as ASP, Active Server Pages, the classic ASP, not the ASP.NET. So this classic ASP is capable of executing ASP VP script. So whatever I studied in the Visual Basic as a software development, I was able to do it in the website as well. So basically it is HTML and CSS, and I did not have a proper learning experience back then. I was looking at all the websites, view page source and stuff like that, and I was able to learn that there is like HTML head and other things. So that's the maximum I was able to learn. Then moving forward, I came to know that, okay, so this is how you need to write HTML. Then later on, I was using JavaScript to include CSS. You don't believe it, that was what I was doing. Even now I remember what mistake I did. So I was using JavaScript to include a CSS thing. Then later on I came to know that CSS is a separate thing that goes with HTML to do the presentational stuff. So and then I learned it properly. So that was my initial first level of attack on web development. So I was doing those things, and after that, post to that, I understood that if I need to host any of my ASP classic ASP websites, I would require a Windows server with IIS installed or PWS installed in the on the World Wide Web. But Windows servers are crazily costly. So back in those days, I can't even spend 100 rupees for these kind of activities, because we have no clue what exactly this does. And even I'm not able to explain my parents, because we were already using some kind of a dial-up connection, 56.6 kbps connection, and we will be getting like 4 kbps or 5 kbps at max. So that was my internet connection setup during those times. Then I came to know that there is this thing called as open source in my 10th standard. Like around that point of time, I came to know there is something called PHP. So this is where I had the worst experience in my life. Transitioning from Visual Basic to PHP was a crazy thing for me, because number one, Visual Basic is completely in English. Like for I to 10, I is equal to 5, like starting with 0 to 10. So it's like normal English, natural language. Whereas in case of PHP or JavaScript or any other language for other than Visual Basic, it is all coding. Like, you have a proper syntax, grammar, etc., which I have no clue at during those times. So what I tried doing is, okay, fine, this is my life. I need to go ahead with PHP, or else I need to leave this dream away. So I started working on what do you call this? Yeah, so this is PHP. At that point of time, I got this awesome book called PHP 5 for Dummies by Janet Valladay. And obviously, I did not buy it. I got it through my friend. Actually, he was my teacher back then. He was my computer professor in computer teacher in my school. So he gave me the book, and it was a huge, heavy book, and I really like the way they have explained everything. It's like the awesome, the basics and basics. That's how it was given. And moving forward, I learned PHP and I started building my own website and I designed everything, and it went really well. So back, and then it was like PHP and MySQL. I became a LAMP stack developer. Until past 5 years, I was working with PHP and MySQL on the hobby side. When I joined my first company, I had this choice to be taken because I was not much into HTML and CSS, right? So I was more into backend, and anyone starts as a backend developer nowadays because it is coding and it is easy to understand programming rather than trying to get your head out of the CSS nightmares that a lot of people are currently experiencing. I know how it feels. I come from the background of Internet Explorer 6 and I used to fix bugs for them, and it was really helpful in that. So looking at those kind of things, I was able to understand, okay, so this is how CSS works, the box model works, and that's folks, that's your second step in getting to full stack development. Number one is HTML, as Eddie said. Number two is CSS, which is I feel that a lot of new people, new to CSS people, they will say definitely it is a bit tough, which I completely accept and agree. And going further, then comes the JavaScript part, which is the interactive part. And I was given a chance in my company, in my first company, saying like, do you want to go with like a front end or back end? Okay, I'm not that good, well versed with front end, so I'll go with back end. And they said like, have you worked before in Ruby on Rails? I hadn't even heard that term Ruby on Rails. I said, no, let me go to front end. That's when my front end journey started in the official way. And going on, it was going really good, saying like, I learned a lot in my front end technologies, like HTML, CSS, the box model. More than that, the accessibility part, which is a huge thing in the UK. In the UK, Eddie, what is the government legislation with accessibility in the UK? You are the better person to say because you are born and brought up in the England, right? So
In terms of accessibility, in terms of the web standards and what they expect in terms of the A standard,
exactly,
double A, etc., and
like
so on.
there is also government mandate saying like, if you are creating a website, it should be accessible to a lot of people. What is it about? Do you want to explain a few things on it?
Sure. So it is really important to lower the barrier to entry and include everyone for so many reasons. And I went to a hackathon on accessibility, and it actually really opened my eyes to some people might be colorblind, so having something red and green is not enough alone. So there are standards by W3C called, I think, A, AA, and AAA, and it depends on the site. If it's a private company, I think they're only required to do A, but if it's a government website, they're required to do AA, which is actually not too hard. AAA is really hard. And for example, it expects alt tags on images, so therefore there is a description of what the image is, and you have the right labels and so on. So there's not a lot of the frameworks now do a lot of the heavy lifting for us and let us know what's required. You just need to fill it in, customize it with the information.
Yeah, that's a nice explanation. And moreover, I have worked with a lot of government-based websites. We will also be looking at the chats. And yes, Tamil Tech News, this is live. This is like literally live. Yes. And yeah, so another thing which happened was, since I don't have any idea about Ruby on Rails or related area, I said I'll go with front end. And then I came to know about box model and how the box model affects. There is like content box, there is border box, those kind of things, and then went into JavaScript. So even in JavaScript, we have to do a lot of optimization, make sure everything is really good. And that went on for 3 years, almost 3 years, and then I left the company, and then I came to England to pursue my master's in cloud computing. When it happens with cloud computing, I felt like I have I learned a lot in my university, but in the right theoretical way. But in the right theoretical way, I already learned all those things in my office time, because when I was working with the when I was working with my first company, I was really having like a complete hands-on experience on all the servers. And for a lot of people are right now asking me, how should I learn something? You can learn from a lot of places. Like right now, Google is your friend. You have like hundreds and hundreds of tutorials available, etc. But at the same time, the right way to learn is only when you start implementing something and showing it to others. That's when you will really learn something. So only then you will be okay, so this is the way I need to go, practically this is how I need to do. And then okay, there is some kind of a blocker coming in, how am I supposed to solve this? So life is all about problem solving. So that's exactly what I would suggest everyone to do. And in the recent past, we started working on sorry, leave the recent times. So after that, then came the dawn of Bootstrap. How many of you know Bootstrap? What Bootstrap is? It is one of the awesomest CSS framework that I would say. Eddie will shout at me for that, but I know it is one of the one of the great. Like it's by Twitter. It was by Twitter, and right now the same developers are actually actively developing the framework. It's a CSS framework with some JavaScript also in it, and it is based on jQuery. So when jQuery was first launched, it was able to take out all the heavy lifting from my hand. Like for example, if you want to do a fade in or fade out, you need to write 100 lines of JavaScript code, while jQuery can do it in like 2 or 3 lines. That's it. And the code was looking much simpler, and we started using something called as unobtrusive what do you call this, unobtrusive controller or something like that, unobtrusive event listeners. That is something which we were working on. And apart from those kind of things, the other best thing which I found was jQuery. Although it is like a bit heavy, it has literally touched out on all the areas. So when you are in your 2010s, jQuery would have been better. And for the past 5 years or 6 years, I got acquainted with some Facebook team, one of the teams in Facebook, and then I saw this awesome, crazy thing called as JSX. And from that time onwards, I started working with it, and wow, React JS is like right now rocking. Eddie, this time you need to talk something.
So I'm replying to some of the questions in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what? Continue on with what you were saying. Let me
No, no,
see.
no. I thought you would be you would be against me because I'm keeping on saying like React JS is awesome and stuff like that. Yeah, but definitely React JS is the one which I started with. It has a very simple learning curve, and it's going really awesome. That's what I feel. And anyone who wants to learn something new and who hasn't tried Angular or Vue, I would strongly suggest them to go with React, because it is very simple to get started with, and you can start with that one. And while I was working on React JS at that point of time, even Node.js became really popular. Then this whole JavaScript stack coming up, there was something called as Meteor JS. I'm not sure what is the status of Meteor JS at the moment. Then we had Mean Stack that was like really super popular because of the Angular and MongoDB's introduction, because everything, the whole front and back end, sorry, the front end, the programming language, the business logic, the data layer, access logic, everything is JavaScript now. So you have MongoDB, Express.js, AngularJS, and Node.js in the whole stack. So everything is JS and written in JavaScript. So you have the same language. It's just the same language, but it is not the same syntax. But still, you don't need to learn something new. That was the unique selling point of that particular framework. And then React came into market, which kind of like hit Angular a lot, I guess, which is what is my personal feel, because learning React was very easy, and working with React is also very easy for me. Okay, whatever I'm saying, it is all my personal thing. So that's how I got into Node.js and Express.js and React. And uh, I didn't take really MongoDB, but I took PostgreSQL. So I went into Perm stack. That's how I got into. So that's exactly which I did. And there are these people right now. You guys, you come. There are these people who are coming from Java background, then .NET background, etc. All these typed languages people, they keep saying we need typed language in JavaScript, and then they kind of sabotage JavaScript by introducing a new language called TypeScript. And I will ask Eddie to continue on that.
Yeah, TypeScript, it's although it seems like a new language, it's not really. It's more of a superset because you can still write JavaScript in it, and you got your TypeScript file, but you can still write normal JavaScript.
So if I start writing normal JavaScript with using any, or if I'm completely avoiding the type part, my manager will be kicking my back.
Yeah, that's different. I'm saying it's possible. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do to write any, but you could start that way and then build up because it's all about starting. I think people, when I see the questions in the chat, they're looking how to get into full stack, and when you're like, if you're looking to build a car, there is just, where do you start? You've got aerodynamics, you've got the wheels, you've got the braking, you've got the engine. I think trying to think so big is quite scary, and that's why a lot of people never actually start. So my biggest advice to anyone, if you want to get into full stack, open source, whatever it is, just start. Pick one small piece, and I guarantee you'll get it wrong, but you won't know how to get it right until you get it wrong, right? It's like riding a bike. You're going to get on the bike and you're probably going to fall off, but you're going to learn from that, and next time you'll go a bit further along before you kind of wobble, and then you'll get better. So my biggest advice, whatever you want to do, front end, back end, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, open source, if it's commenting, raising bugs, raising ideas, contributing documentation, translation, whatever it is, just get started like today, like really get started today, and then you'll be able to focus more on what you want when you know a bit more about that area. So I think that's a lot of the challenges that people have, and then people's questions become more focused. Imagine you're building a car, let's take that as an example again, and you go to a mechanic and you say, hey, I want to build a car. They're going to say, well, good luck. Whereas if you said to a mechanic, I'm building the engine part of the car and it stalls after 10 seconds and this happens, then they say, oh, I know what your problem is, you need this. So I think to people who are new to tech, also they need to practice asking questions and them not being so wide. So once you get into whatever you want to get into in tech, your questions will become more focused and someone will be able to answer you more quickly and give you more help because your question is more specific. So that's probably my biggest advice. Today is Saturday. I know we're in different time zones, but it's Saturday for most people. Get started. I want to see your green squares on GitHub today. And don't forget, open source is not just about code. It is about raising an issue, an idea, a bug, suggestion. And if you want to raise a pull request where you can make a change to documentation code, then great. And if you're unsure about raising it, raise it. What is the worst that can happen? Someone just closes it and says, no, thank you. But you still get the green square for today. Other people still see your profile on another project. And if you are still nervous after all that, I'll share some projects in the chat, and feel free just to raise a test issue in one of those projects and just write test issue or write something. I don't mind. We can just close it. You get your green square and you realize that it's not that scary. People want you to succeed. They don't want you to fail. Yes, there are some projects where they're a bit stupid and we'll ignore those projects, and they're far and few between. There aren't that many. The majority of projects want you to succeed. So either reply to your issue or your pull request and say, I like this, but you need to make some little changes, then I'll accept it. So definitely, whatever you want to do, start today. Turn off Netflix, turn off the TV, don't turn off YouTube, you're still here. Stay on YouTube. After YouTube, get into it. And I have done lots of YouTube videos on this, and I plan to do more open source live streams next week on this as well. So definitely get started.
Awesome. That was good. And Eddie, there are like a few questions that are really good. I just had a look at the chat, and Sujit is asking about how important is to know data structures and algorithms in JavaScript. based full stack web development, stacks, queues, hash map, graphs, tries. I mean, I'm not sure what tries is, but I don't understand the correlation between like a full stack developer and data structures and algorithm. Maybe in both in backend and front end you have the logic, the mapping logic and JavaScript logic and the backend logic. Those kind of areas definitely data structures and algorithms will be coming up. But how important is that? Because even I'm not able to understand, because whenever I go to any company, any interviews that I give, I completely go with yeah, I know I'm good with React, HTML, CSS. Go delve deep into CSS like responsive web design and other areas in that area. But I have never thought about like data structures or algorithms or quick sort, merge sort, sorting things. Everything is algorithm, right? So yeah, what should we answer for that, Eddie? What do you think?
I don't think that important. I interview a lot of people for government departments, for fintechs, for high street banks, and I never asked those questions. I think I used to like over 10 years ago because that's what we thought we needed to ask. But yeah, I don't think they're important. I think it's attitude is more important than skills, right? If someone's got the right attitude, then they're going to, fit in the team and they want to collaborate. Again, this is where open source comes in. I don't just want to look at your code. I want to look about how you collaborate with people. And then, yes, it is important to know React or Angular or Vue or whatever it is, whatever job you're applying for, to know a bit about the libraries and frameworks and tools you're going to use. But those academic questions are less important unless you're going into data science. I probably couldn't answer most of those questions now. I've forgotten them all because it's just not what I do day to day. And I have actually, had some interviews where they have asked some stupid BS questions where can you sort this with bubble sort? I'm like, no, I'll just go dot sort, whatever I'm using, Java or JavaScript, and I would do that. And it would sort it for me, or the database would sort it for me. And if you're asking me those sorts of questions, then that just seems ridiculous that you want such academic questions. And I'd leave. I'm like, no, not interested to work with you, because then the other people that you've got are probably more theoretical than practical. And you want to work more with people who have actually used the tools rather than just done the theory behind it. So I don't think they're that important. In a nutshell, the TLDR, I don't think they're that important. I think it's good to be aware of them, maybe, if you can and that interests you, or if you're going into data science and it's different. But into full stack, I don't think it's important, and I think companies are slowly realizing that. I'm sure Priya's got a whole list of questions she's queuing up to ask us as well.
Yeah, she's actually planning to ask some questions. She gave me a quick heads up on it. Yeah, go on, Priya.
Yeah. All right. So I'm a fresher, right? You know that, Praveen. So my mind is always resolved with some doubts and all. Not only me, but also every fresher. So
Questions,
where should I start
not
with?
doubts.
Yeah.
Okay, starting. How should I say? So I'll give a quick brief outlook of how backend and front end looks like. So that way you will be having a good idea of what are all the different parts of full stack development. So when you take full stack development, you have a huge backend area and then you have a huge front end area. So if you, I believe anyone can start with either backend or front end. It can be done in parallel as well when you are doing it as a team or something like that. So there are multiple ways to do. So let's go with the learning part. So if you are learning from start, I would personally suggest let's go with from front end, then you go with back end, and then you go connect the databases and then do the deployment. Because now there is a comment from Priyadarshini Chettiar. She's asking, can you please explain the process from starting to deployment? Many at times I feel it feels difficult to understand the flow when working with experts. I guess I would leave Eddie to answer this question for me. And by the way, when it comes to the starting of learning phase, I would suggest go with the front end. Okay, so in the front end, how do you start? Start with HTML, the basics of HTML. HTML tags. What is semantic HTML? What are all the right tags that you need to use it where? Then what are all the different tags available in HTML document? You have like only like less than 50 tags, and it is easy to understand which tag goes inside which and which should not be, which should be a sibling and which should not be nested under each other. So these kind of things are easy to learn with pure practice. So you need to keep on practicing it as well. And
Yeah.
the next thing which I would, yeah, yes, Priya, you did you say anything? Like you want to say anything?
Nothing, nothing.
Right. So that is the first step. The second step is you have actually built the, like the foundation and the skeleton of the page. Now you need to start painting something. You need to put the nice paints and nice, the putty tinkering thing you need to do. That is called presentation, and that is mainly handled by CSS. So when you take CSS, you need to understand how CSS works, how the cascading works, how the properties and rules works, how the selectors are working. So you have three different types of selectors. One is the tag selector, actually four different types of selector. One is the universal selector, which is the star. The next thing, which will be a tag selector, then there is an ID selector, and then there is a class selector. Then comes to the CSS specificity. So if there is a two uh, two rules that is targeting one particular element, which rule will be applied and in which order. So that becomes CSS specificity. Then laid a specificity and cascading. Then you have the CSS basics, like the basic thing about CSS is the box model. So you need to learn how exactly box model works. What are all the different types of box model? The olden IE6 box model is the border box model, and while a lot of people in the mid times they are using content box model, now we are all trying to force ourselves to use the border box model again, thanks to IE6. So what exactly border box model and what is exactly content box model? Moving further, you will be learning the basic three things in CSS. Number one is the display properties, number two is the floats, and number three, slightly advanced of the float version, is the positions. So these are the three things that always revolves around CSS. These three things you need to master. Once you know all these three, then you go with slightly advanced concepts like flexbox and grid system, which are currently in the like in the buzz light and in the light. And finally, after learning all these things, you have to obviously integrate the HTML and CSS. Practice, create a nice awesome portfolio. And there is also something like at font face, you can import custom fonts from the web. That is also possible. So these are the complete, I guess I have covered everything on the CSS part
Yeah.
now. So yeah, the next thing is obviously JavaScript. Basics of JavaScript. How does the variable declaration work? What are all the different control flow statements, like if then, if else statement, if statement, switch case. Then you come to the loops: for loop, while loop, do while loop. Anyone who is good with, like, who has already done programming will be able to easily uh, get it up as well, because most of the programming languages look the same way. Like for example, JavaScript is actually inspired from Java, C, C++, etc. All these if you know Java, C, C++, then JavaScript is easier
Yeah.
for you. Only thing is the syntax and semantics. Once you are done with JavaScript, the basics, then you will understand how to do JavaScript with the DOM. DOM is the document object model, which is your HTML document converted into JavaScript. So that is the integration you are doing. So you are integrating whatever you are trying to achieve from JavaScript into your HTML page, and you will be able to look at it in the in the interactive way. So what exactly HTML does is putting the skeleton of the whole page. Then you do the painting using the CSS. And if you want to interact, for example, if you want to put a switch and the light burns, like light glows, then it is going to be JavaScript part. So that is the basics of front end, like raw basics of front end. Once you are done with that, you can either go with CSS, you will be going with CSS frameworks, then you will be going with JavaScript frameworks. So CSS frameworks I believe a lot of people know, it includes Bootstrap as the CSS framework, which is one of the most used one. That's the reason if someone says, let's use Bootstrap, oh, yet another Bootstrap website. So that is already there. That's always there. But there is also a way to like using your creativity to make sure this particular Bootstrap website, even though it is based out of Bootstrap, you can make sure that it doesn't look like a Bootstrap based website. That is one thing which you can do. The next thing is about how you can uh, use your skills in JavaScript to make the things better. So there are like a lot of JavaScript frameworks, starting from jQuery, which is not a framework, which is just a library. jQuery and React.js are libraries, while Angular, Vue, and other frameworks are JavaScript frameworks. So when it comes to, I mean, I'm a huge fan of library because it is very easy to implement and it is very easy to get rid of it as well. So that's the reason I generally prefer libraries over
Do
frameworks.
you want to explain the
Frameworks,
difference? Yeah, exactly. Go into a bit more detail. Yeah, it's good.
yeah, I guess Eddie will be able to explain that. Go on, Eddie.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a library and a framework? So I
I
would
think
say
your
that,
example was good. One thing that someone said, so I can't take credit for this, but they said with a library, you start your project and you bring in the libraries that you want. So you bring in React and then you use as little of it as you want or as much of it as you want. And you do it the way you want, which is one of the reasons why I don't like it, because I like the convention. I like to go to a React, not a React project, go to a project and know this is the way it's done on all those types of projects. So that's why I prefer frameworks. So that's what happens with a library. And then with a framework, it's different. You create the project with using the framework, and then you bring in your code into the framework. But then you can never, like Praveen said, it's very hard to then remove the framework. Whereas with a library, you could potentially remove it and change it for something else, which I don't think ever really happens. You'd probably start the project again. But I like the convention of something like Angular. Vue is somewhere in the middle in my understanding, and I actually have some live streams coming up with some Vue experts, so I'm going to learn more and I'll share that with you. But yeah, with Angular, it has everything built in. So if you want to have a HTTP client to call an API, it's all built in. You don't have to think, what third-party library should I use? And I think that sometimes off-puts people because there is more to learn. There is a lot more to a framework, but you only need to use the parts that you need when you need it. So it's not there until you include it. But again, it's choosing the right tool for the job, and also have a look in your area or where you want to get a job. If they're using more React, then use more React. They're using more Vue, use more Vue. If they're using Angular, you get the idea. But so for example, for me in fintech, it's very much Angular focused because they're more looking at bigger, more, I hate the word enterprise, I'm going to do air quotes now, enterprise applications, where when they want to do the onboarding with people, they want it to be a lot quicker. They want people to know that for a HTTP client, Angular already has that built in, etc. Whereas I think in more startup worlds, they like React because they can pick and choose different ones and change it later if they want. It's a bit more, I don't know if it's the right word, but maybe a bit more kind of creative freedom. Hopefully that helps. What do you think, Priya? Are we doing a good job?
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Okay.
You're answering all my queries.
Cool.
Okay, Praveen. Okay. How long will it take to be a full stack developer?
it depends on your speed, and there are like loads and loads
Yeah.
of different. Okay, so I already answered this question in a bit of a different way. What I would say is, even if there is a video tutorial available in YouTube or somewhere else, or someone is teaching you, let's say you are learning something in 1 hour's time or 2 hours time, try to make some kind of an implementation on it. So that will actually make you more confident on that particular part. So that's what I would say. Like it depends, again, it depends on the complexity and the, like, you will learn in like 10 minutes. I might take 15 minutes to learn. Eddie might take 1 minute or maybe nanosecond to learn. So there
1
is
year.
Yeah.
there is a lot of differences between the way people learn as well. At the same time, I don't learn at the same speed everything, because for me, even the mood matters, right? Like right now everyone is really stressed with the lockdown effect and other things, and there is also that kind of a thing that affects everyone. So we need to stay positive and try to like go with the full passion and try to achieve something. So that's, I mean, there is no definite time, but there are a lot of, boot camps and other things. They say like you have to learn for like, in this number of days for this one and stuff like that. See, as I said, CSS consists of those topics, JavaScript consists of those topics, HTML consists of those topics. Until you are confident, just go ahead, keep practicing. Give the best thing which I would say is showcase your work. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, even some people put that in Tinder. Because you are here, please go ahead, look at this is what I did, hire me please. And actually, I guess a huge apparel company hired some people on that platform, which is interesting to learn. So yeah, so those kind of things happen. Just try showcasing it to others and try to get some critics from them. So based on that, try to see if you are able to improvise it, or you are able to learn something new out of it. Like for example, in my previous live meeting, we were talking about Node.js and Express.js, which is what we were using for backend and API stuff. Suddenly, some person asked this, saying like, "What was it, Eddie? It's Fastify. Something new we learned." So,
Yeah.
if I had not done this, I would never in my life know that there was some kind of like a Express, like a competition to Express exist. So that is something which is really important. Keep learning. That is one thing which I would say. Secondly, as you said, Stack Overflow. If you want this T-shirt, please get 100,000 points in Stack Overflow. Every question and every answer you post, if you get it upvoted, you will be getting 10 points. If you get downvoted, you will be getting -2 points. But if you get an answer accepted by the asker, you'll get 15 points. So try getting like 100,000 points. You'll be getting this one. And one more thing is, if you keep on answering it a lot, you will be able to see how other people are also answering. Like for example, you know the answer for this particular question and you're trying to answer this, and immediately there is another answer coming behind you which solves it in a completely different way. Until then you didn't even know that there was some kind of other way that is possible existing. And I recently learned that what competitive coding means. Until today, or maybe until yesterday, I didn't know what competitive coding means. And based on that, I guess I'm already doing a competitive coding by doing these things. So we will also organize a session with Eddie, and most probably Priya, if you can join us. We'll be doing a competitive coding, and we can see how we can easily, like, crack things. See, it's all about problem solving. So that's how you need to do. So problem solving abilities will increase, and once you get your problem solving abilities increased, that is the way you can go further. Eddie, did I blabber a lot?
No, it's really good, and I think I just want to add one more thing to the problem solving. So before lockdown, I used to go to a lot of hackathons,
Me too,
and the
for
one
pizzas.
and for me it was to get content for my YouTube channel. So there's lots of videos from hackathons I went to from on my YouTube channel. But one thing that I really noticed, the pattern that I noticed, is I learned so much how to look at a problem and solve a challenge very differently, because I would work with different people every time. And the hackathons that I won were actually where we were not a team of developers, because if you're a team of developers, you're focusing on the tech, and yes, you might be looking at it differently, and that's a good way to learn from each other. But also working with people who were still in tech, maybe UI, UX, accessibility, tester, or whatever it is, gave a different perspective on the user, and that really helped, and I learned a lot from that. So the hackathons that I won were where we had a mixed team, and that just goes to show that you can get involved in tech and you don't have to code if you don't want to, and you can still earn as much, and you can still be just as successful in UI, UX, testing, etc. I love coding, and so obviously I want everyone to code, but you don't have to code if you don't want to. But get involved. That's the point I'm trying to make.
One more thing is, in full stack development, it is not like everyone does coding. If you are a hater of coding, I don't think you can become a full stack developer, but you can become a DevOps person or something like that. So
Yeah,
that's also there. A lot of people are like
going to say,
intimidated by yeah, a lot of people are
I would
intimidated by
say,
the word coding. Sorry, go on,
yeah,
Priya.
say I hate coding because so many people are watching it.
No, Priya, don't say that. There are a lot of employers here as well, potential
Yeah,
employers who can take you and
yeah.
say you love coding.
Well, I just want to add something
Okay.
to that, if that's okay. Sorry to interrupt. Um, if you don't like coding, well, at university, I missed this out in my story, but I've got a story, then I've got a real world example. So at university, I hated coding. I kid you not. I would ask my friends, how can I get out of this coding module? I'll be doing electronic engineering, and I didn't like coding. Mostly because 20 years ago when I did my studying, they taught it wrong. It was all about algorithms and boring stuff and theoretical stuff. But then getting into the real world after university, I really enjoyed coding because I'd build a web page and I could see things physical. But the point I'm trying to make, if people don't enjoy coding, that's fine. We were on a team for a fintech company and we were thrown together all on like day one with new people, and we had 4 developers and 4 testers. And one of the testers didn't like testing and he didn't like coding. And one of the managers noticed that they weren't raising pull requests on GitHub with tests and improvements and so forth. And they said, we're thinking of removing this person because they're not, doing very much. And we said, well, we're getting them involved in other areas that we're not doing. So documentation or the business analyst side, because we didn't have a business analyst on the team. And this person was really good at understanding what the kind of product owner wanted and putting it into bullet points that we could then work through. So we really enjoyed having this person on the team because they did something that none of us enjoyed. So they were really solving a problem. And they said, but their job title is tester, they need to test. And we went, no, that's rubbish. I don't care about job titles. It's about contributing to the project and the team. So in the end, on the retrospective, which we do every sprint, every 2 weeks, we said, right, let's remove job titles because that's just obviously causing a blocker of management. They're a bit stupid. They don't get it. And so we called everyone a team member. And this person they wanted to remove focused on the business analyst task. So understanding what the product owner wanted from their diagrams or their sketches, etc. And then making slightly more technical diagrams, breaking it into stories that we could work on, creating issues on GitHub. And then when the manager came along and wanted to try and, push this person out, the entire team, all 7 other people stood by and said, no way, this person adds so much value to this project, they need to stay. And then they stayed and they actually got a pay rise out of it, which was freaking awesome. But my point is, it's just adding value to your project, to someone else's project, to an open source project, to your company's project, whatever it is. I really believe job titles and whatever you want to call it isn't important. The important part is adding value to the project, to the people, the team, and the users. So as long as you can add value, that's really, really important.
That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What's the future of this web development?
It's awesome actually. Why is it? I mean, Eddie, go on.
So what's the future of web development? Is that the
Web
question?
development.
In terms of future, do you mean what libraries and frameworks are going to be, taking the
No,
edge?
I mean, like,
It's
I,
hard to
I believe
say.
they are asking a question like, does web development have any future or not? Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a
literally,
great question.
okay,
I've got an answer. I think it's a great
go
answer.
for
I
it.
don't know. You all tell me if it's a good answer or not. I put something in the chat, which I'm just going to elaborate on a while back, which is with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, or TypeScript if you're like it like me, which ends up being JavaScript, so they're kind of the same. You can not only build a web page, a web app, an online platform, be it something like Facebook or Twitter or banking, you can also do the back end, as we've spoken about, but you can also do a mobile app with something like React Native or Ionic, etc. You can also do desktop apps with Electron. So with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can do all platforms. So do what interests you, and then you will learn the languages, and then you'll be able to port it over. I've been to hackathons, so I'm not a mobile app developer or a desktop developer, but I've been to hackathons and won hackathons with my team where we have built desktop apps or mobile apps because it's just using HTML, CSS. And I can give you one example. There are these beacons you can get. They're like kind of really small, like size of a big coin or a small badge, and they're called iBeacons. They've got various other names, but they've got Bluetooth and accelerometer, range, and all sorts of other cool things. And the hackathon was about beacons, and there was a couple ideas that came out of them, and they're quite simple projects, but they're actually really interesting. One example is, for example, one team put a beacon in their backpack, and then on the app that they wrote, you connect that beacon. So when the beacon leaves you for more than 3 meters, it notifies your phone that someone's stealing your bag or you've left it on a train or a bus or something. And that was a really interesting project. And our team, we did a car parking system to try and understand where the free spaces were in the car park, rather than just going up and down trying to find this free space. And so yeah, with HTML, CSS, which is a web technologies, you can do literally everything.
Anything.
Games, you can do browser games, you can do desktop games, you can do so much. So if you like writing games, you can even do VR. There's web VR that you can do. There's so many things. We use Unity with JavaScript, and we won a hackathon, a VR hackathon. Never done anything with VR before, and we won a VR hackathon. Just using our JavaScript skills. So, and actually there was some CSS, I'm pretty sure, and some styling in there. I'm just saying, just get involved. Those 3 skills will take you so far, and then you can focus on an area that interests you. And then you'll learn even faster when you're even more interested.
Yeah. So I will achieve all this with the help of you both soon.
Started today. I want to watch your GitHub account, and I want to see a green square for today. Every day. Green square every day keeps Eddie away.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm not gonna touch GitHub then. I want you to help me with all the live streaming things. Awesome. Any other good questions, Priya? Did you find something to ask?
What do you want to say to the freshers like me regarding this web development, on how to excel in their career?
Okay, so the first thing is start learning from the basics and try to stick with it. So again, repeating the same thing, keep on practicing, and as Eddie says, keep Eddie away from you. Like, keep on doing a lot of projects in GitHub. Like, keep putting a lot of projects in GitHub, even if it is like a small hello world program. Keep pushing it, each and everything. And I would suggest a few people who might, even my close friends will shout at me for this. If possible, try to start your own website and try to write your own blogs. That will actually help you in a lot of ways. For example, I come from India, and with my English, I'm definitely sure that I won't be able to survive in the UK. So what I did was I started reading and reading a lot of things, but I hate reading. Like, I don't like reading books and anything, even if it is even if it is Harry Potter or anything. I would love to watch the movie, and that too in a Tamil dubbed movie. So I'm from Tamil Nadu, and I know Tamil better. And even though I'm a Telugu person, I would be like, where is the Tamil dubbed version of the movie? I'll go to the theaters, book the first ticket, and stuff like that. So I hate reading to that level. So what I did was, suddenly I thought, okay, I'm going too slow. I need to pick up some pace. And then what I did was I started helping my friends on how to do something. Like, for example, I started this in my university in Leicester. So when I was pursuing my master's in cloud computing, there was my friend who was studying with me, classmates. They all had the same issue. Like, they were not able to make this thing work. So I said, like, do this way, do that way. And obviously I had to stick to English because of the multinational people. Like, there were people from from India, from Europe, from America, from China, from Japan, from Africa, from Pakistan. Like there are like loads and loads of nationalities here, and it was like really difficult for me in case if I need to stick with my local slang, and also my English had to be in a better way because the Indian English, the my Indian English was really bad. So I had to like keep on practicing and try to get this communication part cleared. And then came the next part. So I was able to explain, but obviously it comes with a time, right? So I need to spend nicely huge time to explain this. This is what you need to do, and this is what you will get in return and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I was not able to spend so much time just for explaining stuff. So what I did was, okay, I'll write everything and then give it to you. Then how I started writing is I started putting like jotting down points. So this is about, again, we are slightly deviating to technical documentation or technical writing concepts, which is also a part of our full stack development, but it's not exactly a major one. And nobody says like this is one of the main parts, but as a person who just joined a huge company, I feel really bad. I don't even have a place to start with. So I start with bullet points, and then I kind of like elaborate the bullet points and then keep it on track. So this is the approach I generally take for most of the things, and that worked really well. So this is one way of making your communication really good. And in case if you are very like not a you're afraid to blog or write blogs or anything, this way will start um, getting a good way, like you. And moreover, if you don't have any idea to start with a blog post or something like that, start with something that you learned today. You might have learned something from someone, even from a fruit seller you might have learned something. Try to write that even on Facebook unofficially, like just casually write something. This is what is my experience, this is what happened. From Facebook, slightly go to Twitter. Try to concisely tell what exactly happened in 1 hour, in 140 characters or like 250 characters or 380 characters now. And then take it forward to LinkedIn, explaining what exactly your session feedback was. And once again, we can do one thing, like, guys, folks, if you have any if you want to do something for us, like, do you want to take a full screenshot of this thing and post it on LinkedIn and say something like, okay, this is what is happening. And you can also share the link of the YouTube video and say like, this is what is happening now, and this is what I feel about the whole experience. So start writing your experiences. This will actually help others. This is what we are doing right now, myself and Eddie. I've got like around what 10 12 to 15 years experience in the same industry. Eddie's got like 40 years experience, right?
I'm not that old.
No,
But
you started your writing your first program when you are like a just born baby, right?
Before I was born. I definitely started before I was born.
There you go.
No, but my professional career is what I focus on. Like after uni is what I focus on. So yeah, it is a few more years than you. I don't want to say too many because I show how old I am. But you raised a really good point actually about getting involved in the conversation in the community. And I think this, but never expressed it. I just want to reiterate it because it is really good. Praveen was saying, take a screenshot, and share a bit about what you've learned. Exactly, because
that is one of the starting points.
Exactly, because you'll tag the three of us, and then we'll like it, or we'll share it potentially, and then it appears in our feed. Then our community and our audience will discover you, and then that's how kind of the tech
and you will get a job.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how our network can mix with your network and etc. and so on. And I think that's really important. But if you send someone an invite on LinkedIn, you've got to add a comment. You can't just send unless you know the person really well, then it's different. But if you don't know the person really well, you've got to add a comment why you should connect, what value there is from connecting and so on. But definitely first start by getting involved in the conversation even before you send a connection request. Like Praveen said, make a post. What was the bit you liked? Maybe a suggestion even for future. You can give some constructive feedback is really useful and valuable to the three of us as well. So yeah, do that. Get involved in the conversation, and then other people will discover you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think all my queries are answered now.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Let me have a quick look at the comments.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Lots of
Um,
chat going on.
yeah, do you want to pick up something from that, Eddie?
Yeah, so
I actually had something as well. Yeah.
I can pick one if you want. I can go after you. It's up to you.
Yeah, yeah, go on, go on.
I was going to say, Kamesh, hopefully I pronounced that right, asked about MERN developer. Will the basics of Java be sufficient enough? The great thing about Java, I know a lot of people don't like Java, but the great thing about it is being a lot more of a stricter language, moving to something like JavaScript, PHP, etc., is actually is easier. Whereas going the other way, if people know JavaScript or PHP or Ruby and say, I want to do Java, it is a bit harder. Yes, for loops, conditions, etc., all carry over. But in terms of the strictness, makes it a bit harder. So if you do have Java experience, definitely jump into any other technology. I think that's a good idea.
What do you think of Next.js?
I haven't used it, so I'll let you give your opinion.
I haven't used it either. Yikes. Sorry, Abhishek.
We'll
Sorry,
do
sorry,
some
Akshay.
research and find out for you.
Definitely, we can tell in our next live webinar or something like that. Shed some light on backend, how exactly it works. That's actually a good idea. Okay, so what does backend mean? As I said you before, so backend is like something like um, it is normally like a software application. Whatever you do on the client side, the only difference is it has more extra power. Like for example, when you write a client side application, it cannot access databases, it cannot access local file system, it cannot access anything like services, the computer services or something like that. It cannot write to a file, it cannot create a file and print it out for you, like, or else compile a file and send it out for you. Those kind of things are not possible in a client side system. But when it comes to a server side program, all these things are possible. If you want to save anything that is persistent data, like for example, you want to have like a user login system, and today you are logging in, after 10 years you are logging in, still the username and password works. In that case, you need something called as a persistent data, which is provided by a database server. That is possible using a backend. And secondly, if you want to upload some files, for example, if you want to upload your display picture or profile picture or something like that, so that is possible only using a backend technology, like a server side language. So you take in, like, all these things are possible, right? So now what exactly happens in backend? So what it does is, it is the normal software application that does all these things, normal software. The only difference between a normal executable software versus a full stack web software is, this web software has the user interface, like, the interface will be an application programming interface or a web interface. That is the only difference. The output that you are getting from the other exe application is a GUI. It's a Windows GUI or a Mac GUI or like a built-in GUI. Whereas in case of like a web application, the output will be a HTML page, and it always runs on a particular port, and it will be accepting a lot of connections. That's kind of like the way, in the worst way I can explain. I believe Eddie will be able to explain in a better way. So what exactly is a backend and how it works? That is what is the question, Eddie.
I think you gave a good explanation. The front end runs on the user's computer. So if you've got HTML, CSS, and say, I know we'll pick Vue.js, so Praveen and me don't have an argument, then that's going to run it's going to download to the browser and run on the browser. And the user can see all of it. They could view source. They could make some manipulations if they wanted to. So on your back end, it's running on a server in the cloud. It's the same for everybody. And the user can't see the code, can't change it. So that's where you have a lot of your checks. So for
Business
example,
logic.
yeah, you have your business logic. You still might have business logic on the front end as well, if you've got like a form wizard or something. And to make a good user experience, you probably have client side or front end validation, but that's not enough by itself. You still need the server side to do all the same validation, because the user could, could turn off the front end validation if they wanted to. So it's important to also understand both. Even if you're focusing on front end or back end, it's important to have appreciation for the other side of the stack as well. Hopefully that helps. There was a really good question. Can I jump in and answer a question? So this question by Michael, which is, let me find it. I lost it. The chat is going fast. I did see it somewhere. It was about how much should we know off the top of our head. And it's important to be able to know kind of the coding foundations. If you say, for example, you're in JavaScript or whatever language it is, but for loops, conditional loops, those sort of things. But when it comes to more complex things, it's okay not to know it off the top of your head, but it's important to know where to look for it. And what do I mean by this? So one of my popular interview questions for senior developers is, can you name me some design patterns? I don't mean visual design patterns, I mean architectural design patterns. Name a few and describe them to me. And off the top of their head, they need to know a few design patterns and roughly know, like a one sentence, what they mean and when they will use it. But if I ask them to draw it on the whiteboard or code an example, they are allowed to go and look up an example online, because we can't remember all of these, but it's knowing to be aware of things and then knowing what to look for. So for example, Praveen's a React developer, and so if I was interviewing him, I'd ask him to tell me about React, etc., and so on, and how he would do something and why. But then when I got really specific and said, could you give me a demo of a React hook, for example, if he explained to me what a React hook was, but then said, to give an example, I need to go look at documentation, I wouldn't mind, because he knows what it is, when to use it, and where to look for it. But if you need to remind yourself specifics, that's fine. I think trying to remember every syntax is kind of crazy. I think
useless.
It's a silly interview question. You don't need to remember. You need to know when to use it. That's more important. Hopefully that answers that question.
So there is this question: what is Photoshop, Illustrator, and XD for in web development? Nice one. I can answer it quickly. So Mohit, so Photoshop and Illustrator. See, Illustrator is a vector-based graphic software, and Photoshop is a raster-based graphic software. Both of the software are helping you in providing the graphics. For example, if you have some kind of like logo to be designed or something like that you can use Illustrator or Photoshop to do. Also, some people are using Illustrator, misusing Illustrator and Photoshop to create the visual designs. For example, if you are trying to code, like design the whole website, the website needs to look like this with this colors and this thing. Some people have been using Photoshop and other things, and that is something which is kind of like a misuse, that's what I would say. And apart from that, XD is a prototyping tool, a website, how it should look, how it should be generated and stuff like that. So XD is a completely purely website prototyping tool. So that is how it works. And other questions are like how to establish a career in full stack and land in a job, especially in UK, when they mostly require experience working in full stack a year or so. Eddie, do you want to answer this question?
Sure. So, I mean, you'll have to help me with this one in terms of coming to the UK and those sorts of things. But when
Right.
So maybe that's a good place to start.
I'll quickly give a small overview about that. So UK is obviously a different country compared to India or any other country. So you would be requiring a visa sponsorship to come inside UK. So visa sponsorships, you can either come in as a student or a professional. And most probably for this case, it is going to be a professional route. So if you are going with a professional route, so you are coming here for work, you would be using something called as tier 2 general visa. And for this visa to be approved, you first need to have a sponsor for you, which would be your employer. So you need to take up the interviews and talk to the employer, make them convince them that you are best fit for them, and then you need to get the sponsorship. Once you get the sponsorship, you will be applying the visa either from back in India or back in your country, or if you are a student already here, you will be doing a visa switch. So that's about the immigration part. And it does have there are companies that they do for free, but there is a cost involved as well. So there, that could be depending on the company. You might be needing to pay around like 2000 ish pounds. So that comes around 2 lakh in Indian rupees. All right, that's about the immigration part. Eddie, you can carry on in that.
So you've got to put yourself in the other person's shoes. So if you're asking for help to fix a bug or on your project or whatever it is, you've got to put yourself in the other person's shoes. So if you're looking for a job, it doesn't matter which country it is, but put yourself in the other person's shoes. What makes you stand out? Why should they hire you? And if you're applying from abroad and they've got to sponsor a visa, then there's obviously probably a cost to them. And there's also a time and extra admin. So you need to stand out even further. And again, I'm keep beating the same drum, but getting involved in open source, having an active GitHub account, doesn't matter what active on what. If you've noticed, I've never said it has to be on X project, it must be on a Google project or Facebook. It doesn't really matter. Number one is having an active GitHub account. And then number two, well, not necessarily number two, but one thing you must do. And then another thing you must do is, like Praveen said, get involved in the conversation on LinkedIn and Twitter. And, try and join some live streams and give some talks if you can, or write a blog post if you're not confident in front of the camera or being on camera. I understand that. It takes a lot of time to build that up. I always found public speaking and being on video really difficult. Don't do this, but if you look at any of my first videos on YouTube, you will understand what I mean. They're horrendous, but it's just practice, just like with anything else. So write blog posts, or just write, really, you don't have a blog post, just write a snippet, like a GitHub gist, just like a one paragraph with some code, say this is how I solved this, and then share it on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever works for you. I see people sharing it on Instagram if you want to use Instagram. Follow people, get involved in the conversation. When people, going back to LinkedIn requests, if people send me a LinkedIn request and saying, hey, I think we should connect, I'm like, I don't know you haven't said why. But if you've been involved in the conversation before, as in you've tagged me in a post that I might be interested in, or you've commented on or you follow me on LinkedIn and then you made one of the posts, or on Twitter, for example. I'm not a huge LinkedIn fan, but you made a comment and you started the conversation. Then later on, after a few more of those, you send a request, a follow, or LinkedIn or whatever. I'm probably more likely to follow you back or connect, because I think, right, this person's adding value. I want to see what they're up to, and it grows from there. And then my network will see what you're up to. So you need to stand out, and also your CV needs to stand out. I'm not a huge fan on CVs. When I get a CV, the first thing I take is their GitHub link, and I throw the CV away, and I'm not interested anymore. Because I want to see what they're actually up to, because anyone can write anything on a CV. So for me, I find a CV is kind of mostly BS. But a lot of places do ask for a CV, and you need to stand out. I'm not saying do some crazy elaborate design, but when someone's got 50 CVs on their desks printed or on their screen open, why should they remember yours? Maybe it's a bit more colorful, laid out quite nice. That's going to help a little bit. That's not a silver bullet, but someone says Eddie's so funny. I hope that's not. I hope it's informative and educational as well as entertaining. But the last thing I'll say is, the way I remember people when I'm looking through CVs that have been sent to me by HR or the recruiter is which ones have GitHub links on them. That stands out immediately. And then when I go to those links, if they're kind of a dead GitHub profile, then what's the point in putting the link in? So that's kind of ignored. And then the ones that have activity, I don't care about the activity, but the ones that have activity spark my interest and they immediately make the shortlist. And then I'll dig deeper and see what they've been up to. And the first thing I look at on their GitHub, this will be the last thing I say, I promise, Priya, is I want to see how they collaborate. Before I even look at code, I want to see how they collaborate on GitHub. Have they raised a pull request or an issue? And when they got feedback, did they write a kind of collaborative reply, or did they say, "Oh, I don't like that reply, F off, close"? Then I think, right, this person's not collaborative. And then I also look to see what they do on socials. Are they collaborative on socials? I'll shut up now.
Yeah, I'm receiving many personal messages regarding the open source contribution.
Definitely contribute to open source. I did share some links to GitHub projects where you
Everybody
can practice.
wants to be an open source advocate like you.
Oh, I missed that one. Where is that one? Who was that by? But yes, definitely get involved in open source. If you have any open source specific questions, reach out on Discord. Ask publicly, not privately, because other people will probably benefit from the question and answer. And actually, you just reminded me of something. What I'm going to do, give me 2 seconds. We've created a repo for people to ask questions, so it can be, when they get asked again, we can reshare it on Discord, a link, rather than having to repeat ourselves. So it allows us to scale more and reach more people, and allows the community to answer as well, because I'm really interested in getting other people to answer. So if you have any questions like how to get involved in open source, how to join our organization, this community on GitHub, we're inviting everyone to join, so you get the organization badge on your profile, again, to make your profile look more active. And if you have any questions, raise an issue on there. You get the green square for raising the issue, and you'll get hopefully multiple answers, not just from one person. I think that's really important to get different views. But one question per issue. If you have another question, which is fine, raise another issue.
All right. That was really good questions.
Really good questions, yeah.
Yeah. There's a question from Divya. I guess Eddie will be a good fit to answer this one. I have done projects using HTML, CSS, JS, Bootstrap, and jQuery. Am I be able to get an internship?
I don't know if I'm the best person to answer that. Maybe you, Praveen. I would say, again, it depends. Everyone is different, right? People look for different things. Someone might give you a test and see how you do. I, again, would personally look at your GitHub and see what you've got on there. Not necessarily how good your code is. Actually, one thing I didn't mention, which is I want to look at your code recently, today, this week, this month. I'm actually not interested in how good it is. I am a little bit. But I'm more interested that the code you've got more recently is better than your code was 3 months ago. It shows me that you're continually learning, and that goes for any stage in people's career. If I'm hiring someone with 15 years experience, I still want to see the same thing. So it's important to share everything as you go along. A lot of people share things at the end. They say, oh, when I finish the project, I'll put it live or put it open source. So that doesn't work, because then people can't see your journey. I don't know if you want to be more specific anywhere in that, Praveen, in terms of internships are hard because they want people with experience, but the whole point of the internship is to get experience. So I've hired, for my startups, I've hired interns. And again, for me, it's more about the attitude. So I've hired a coder, I've hired a non-coder, someone to do social media. But for me, for the social, even for the social media side, imagine this. I didn't just want to know that their English was good and they could write a good tweet or a good post, but also I showed them on GitHub how to raise an issue, how to raise a pull request, because I want them to contribute to our open source projects, be it documentation, be it ideas, or project board, right? You might use a project board just to see what's coming up, planning an event and so on. And I want to make sure that they can use that. And they picked it up so quickly because they liked reading. So they read the GitHub documentation. They knew what a pull request was. They knew how to raise an issue. They knew how to use the project board. And in fact, made improvements to the way our project ran. And for me, that was really awesome. And so the marketing person was meant to be with me for 2 to 3 months as an intern. They actually, a paid internship, just to clarify, they actually stayed on for a year and a half and actually came more into a full-time role. And they did it fully remote. So originally they were in the UK for the first few weeks. And I was like, look, I don't mind where you do it from. So they ended up, going back home to their country and then traveling the world. For me, I don't mind. Flexible time, flexible location. It's all about the value to the project rather than bums on seat. You must be in the office 9 to 5 because there's no value in that. Hopefully that answers the question and helps.
Awesome. Yeah, talking about these things, I would also like to put my 2 cents on how I got selected in different companies. So the only company that I went behind, to go apply and give my CV, etc., was the first company I came to after coming to UK. But apart from that company, I guess this is my third or fourth company in the UK, considering the internships and other short-term commitments. All the other companies were through they approached me. So initially, I would also like to say this one. I guess Eddie can tell if this has happened before. Um, I'm the only person I know in my University of Leicester, the whole entire lifetime of University of Leicester. I got a internship without a CV.
Oh,
Nice.
interesting. Yeah.
The main thing is the way I'll explain how I got that. The thing is, I'm extremely active in LinkedIn, and another thing is, I love talking to people. That's what I keep saying in every live stream. So this is me. This is how I work, and this is what I love, and this is what I do. So I keep telling about myself. It's not like too much over marketing, but whenever you meet someone for the first time, I used to say all these things, and then I will forget about it. If they forget about it, I'll make sure they remember it. That's a different story. Okay, so this is the way I introduce to people, and I keep sharing a lot of things that I do on an ongoing basis on the on LinkedIn and other social media platform. I keep getting a lot of calls and from proposals or like offers from different companies, and I guess that was the only time I applied to a company, and after this I haven't applied to any other company. So the companies keep applying to me. So this is one kind of way to look at how you can leverage your skills and try to showcase your stuff. So if anyone is asking, for example, I guess Divya was asking about, I know these things, how I would be getting an internship. I guess this is not just her. There are like 100 different people who are having the same question. For all of you, what I would say is, before thinking whether will I be acceptable for a company, try to make yourself available or make yourself visible that you are able to do this. So definitely many companies have their internship roles available at the moment. So what you do is try to make sure you are employable for them. So try to showcase yourself. This is what I have been doing, and this is what I am like I guess in my previous webinar, Pooja was telling that I'm made of HTML and CSS and I speak JavaScript. So something like that. This is what I'm made of, and this is how I work. And I keep telling that to a lot of people. And I'm pretty sure Eddie also says yes. 90% of people, if I talk this way to everyone in the same way, 90% of people will get annoyed and they will ask me to go off. Okay, so there is a there is a thin line. Like, keep doing a lot, but make sure you are telling it to the world as well, and the world will recognize you and they will come to you. So this is one way of getting a job, and this works in UK. You can see a live example here. Hi. So
Yeah.
that is something which I wanted to say to all the job seekers currently who are looking to get work. I guess this is the same case with other Western countries. I'm not sure. What do you think, Eddie?
I think it's the same for any country. I mean, I get job offers from Google and from GitHub, and I'm not applying to any of those roles. I haven't sent them a CV, and it's just they see what I do, and other companies contact me through my network, or people recommend me when I'm building a team or hiring, or hiring people. If someone gives a recommendation, then that means so much. So you've got to build your network and strengthen your network and have examples. It still needs to be backed up by your skills. A network alone isn't enough, but it's making you stand out and be aware. Like, imagine if someone had built GitHub or Google but no one knew about it, then it's, no matter how amazing it is, it's useless. So you've got to, no matter how amazing you are, you've got to put yourself out there and network and be on people's radar, and then still back it up with blog posts and get open source projects like we've said before. So you still need to back it up. I have seen some people that are all about putting out what I would call kind of fluff, but as soon as you kind of pull back the curtains, you realize there's actually no substance to it. So you still need some substance to it, but you got to make people aware of what you can do. And it starts
Eddie,
today.
sorry.
Today. No, sorry, go on.
Okay, this is one hot topic which is happening in India. So a lot of people are saying, like, I paid for a company to do my internship and get my internship certificate because my college demands it. What should
Wow.
we even
I am the
tell
victim
about?
of that.
Yes, Priya is also a
Yeah.
victim of it. So she
I had
paid
paid
for a
2 times.
company. There you go. Eddie, your chance. Please go on, take over this
I
one.
think for once I'm lost for words. You have to pay for an internship.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and let me just understand this a little bit more. What do you get at the end of it? You get a certificate, and is a certificate by a governing body, or, say, for example, can a startup in the UK
It's
still
like
give you a
Praveen Tech
certificate?
Research Labs gives you the certificate, and it says, Priya, you have successfully completed this
Yeah.
internship from this date to this, some unknown HR, a crazy squiggly line. That's it.
So
Nothing
the
else. No
certificate can
Yeah.
be
verification.
from anybody. It doesn't have to be from a
Yes.
specific
It can
authorized
also be from
company.
Eddie Jaoude.
Okay, got you. Wow, that's quite interesting to pay for it. I don't want to say how much I paid my interns. Let's just say whatever they asked for, I added 50%, because for me, it's about trusting people. And for me, I trust everyone until they break that trust. And so when they put their rate that they wanted, I added 50% and said, look, I need you to always be honest with me and direct. I'm so busy. I need you straight to the point. If I've done something that you don't think is a good idea, then just say it. Don't try and be polite. Just say it. And I really valued their input, and they were amazing, really, really amazing. And a year later, I'm still in touch with them and so on, because they're so great. And one day I hope to work with them again. But to pay for an internship, wow. I know that happens a bit in the States, so it happens in India. Well, I haven't seen that happen in the UK. I have seen some companies try to do it unpaid, or try and pay your
Even
living costs, like a nominal
don't
fee
you
to
see
cover
that
your
even
food and
even having an
accommodation.
unpaid internship in the UK is illegal?
I think that's so bad. I don't know
Yeah.
the legal terms. I think that's really bad. And how long are these internships for, usually? The paid ones?
Around 5 to 10 days.
Okay, so they're quite short.
And you know how much they need to pay? Like, it is like, I guess you paid 10K, right? 10,000 rupees for that internship. So 10,000 rupees is like my first month salary when I was in India as a fresher. It was half of my first month salary for 10 days.
Oh.
So it is
That's
like, I don't know what to say after this.
That's
I'm like
just
completely at loss.
yeah, me too. That's just crazy. I wonder if we can do some open source internships or something and help people out because that just
And I'm
seems
I'm in for it
crazy.
as well. This
I've
is
got
the
the
reason
cogs
I
turning in my head. That's a good idea.
So we need to come up with some kind of like either an awareness or and one more thing is we need to also tell the universities, but I don't know how what is the route. We need to tell them in a polite way that this is not a right way to burden the students as well. At least my college or my university did not do this for me. I'm so happy about that. And moreover, the internship culture was not there when I was studying. That's another different story. And yeah, with respect to the internships part, a lot of colleges are trying to team up with few companies. I mean,
It's because
maybe
they get
even that.
kickbacks, right? They probably get funding from those companies, and that helps the college or the university. So I kind of see their interest in it, but again, I just think that's crazy. So we'll have to probably talk about this offline, but I've got some ideas of what we can do because I see some people writing in the chat that it's kind of 1 to 3 months. I think, that shouldn't matter how long it is. That will just be on the certificate to the duration, like you said. If you do 10 days, it's not going to be as useful as to doing 3 months, for example. But I'm sure telling those universities, those colleges that it's wrong, nothing will change. We need to demonstrate to them and show them. I think most companies need to be shown that there is a better way to do it. But yeah, let's think of some ideas. We'll take that offline and see what we can do. If it is just a certificate and a certificate from a company in the UK works, then maybe that is something we can look into doing. I'm sure Andrew has some good ideas as well. But let's have a think and see. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Wow, I'm still
Also,
just so
I have
shocked.
so this is also one of the main reasons I spoke to my college. I believe a lot of people are from my college. I guess Professor Raj Kumar is also from my college. Hello, sir. And so a lot of people are looking for internships at the moment, and this is currently a state here. And a lot of people really are talented, but they are not getting the right thing. And one more thing is, even if you are like, for example, you say like you are good with Vue.js and you are good with AngularJS, no, just come and work on React.js. They are like kind of like making it this way. Definitely not me, but I would say for me, okay, you write in Vue.js, I will write in React.js. We will go that way. We will be friends. But these people, I have personally seen a friend of mine who had to work on totally a different subject, and he completely forgot what he was talented or skilled in it, and he tried to learn something else, and he couldn't do anything in whatever he liked to do or whatever he wanted to do. Nothing worked out, and he kind of like quit IT completely and became a designer or something like that. So to that level, the stress is real. And I thought like I should do something as a person who studied in India, and I wanted to help my friends in my college. And I said, okay, why don't you come join here? So let's talk about it and try to get another solution. A solution, any solution will work. So obviously, Eddie, you are one of the leading IT people here in the world, and I'm definitely sure that you can come up with a solution, and I can make sure I can take this solution to the right people, right deserving people. So that's the reason I keep telling anyone who is coming to my the live webinars. We will definitely talk about internships, and especially internships in the UK, how internships work, how to choose the right internship, don't get into the wrong one, and stuff like that. So, um, yeah.
Definitely a lot of food for thought. It's great having these questions because it gives us ideas and things for us to discuss. So that's awesome. I'm watching the clock. It's racing away. We've been going for over an hour and a half. How probably do you want to wrap up soon? How are you all doing? Everyone, get your questions in quick. Priya probably has loads more questions she wants to chase us
Priya, is
with.
there any other question? Let's take like five awesome questions and then we will wrap it up. All right? Not more than 10 minutes. Conscious of time.
Yeah. Actually, you had covered everything that I need to know.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really an informative session. Not only for me, many my friends had joined here, and very, very good comments are coming from my part.
Hey, I got this awesome question from Harihara Sudan. Harihara Sudan, are you still here? Most probably he is here. Yes, he is here, I believe. Could you give some pointers to learn new tech stacks? Because I'm from a mechanical background. I have never touched a piece of code ever. Just now starting to learn in this lockdown. It is a difficult transition for me. So this is actually a good question. Eddie, would you like to answer? Because I have no way I can relate to him. So maybe you can answer it better from a mentor perspective.
Sure. Sorry, can you repeat the question for me? I was writing in the chat.
Yeah, sure. It is. Could you give me? Could you give some pointers to learn new tech stacks? Cause I'm from a mechanical background. I have never touched a piece of code ever. Just now started learning in this lockdown, and it seems to be a difficult transition.
Well, I can definitely relate to that. You're right. So I did electronic engineering at university, and I avoided all the coding modules because
What?
I hated coding. Yeah, I did a master's in electronics as well, and yeah, I avoided coding, but I started with just getting results in terms of a web page, just doing some basic layouts with a form field, and then I was hooked. And then, from the HTML, CSS, you get into kind of the JavaScript to try and make it functional, as we've discussed before. But my biggest advice to everyone is just to get started. Today is Saturday. Get started today and put it open source on GitHub. You don't even need to download anything, install anything. If you want to do HTML and CSS and JavaScript in the client side, just open GitHub, register if you haven't registered already, create a repository, which is basically a project. Raise some issues or some things you want to do in your own project. I want to create a header. I want to create, add information to the page, bio, description, picture. Add an issue for each topic. Make them small. Don't say, I want to create a website, one issue, because that issue will be open for a week. Make it small so you can finish it in like 20, 30 minutes. And then when you finished it, close it, raise another issue. Remember, each time you raise an issue, you get a green square. So that really helps. And then in the GitHub web interface, you can create a file, you can add the file, and you can start editing in the file. And then you can even add something on later on called GitHub Pages that hosts the website for free for you on GitHub, and it will be your username, like in my case, eddiejoude.github.io. So you get a really cool URL, and you can customize that further later if you want. But my biggest advice, just get started today. So everyone in the chat who has a GitHub account already, write GitHub. And if you haven't, say not yet. And then we'll make sure that you get one. We're going to keep an eye on you and make sure that you've got one. But definitely get started. So mechanical engineering, it's although it's different to coding, there is still related in terms of problem solving. And everything looks quite daunting now. As I've said, with 15 years experience, when I pick up a new library, it is still daunting. But then once you're kind of digging a bit deeper, things start making sense. So definitely get started.
So there is this question: when can I call myself a web developer? You gave a fitting answer, Eddie. Let's be practical.
Yeah.
What would be the good answer for that?
I think everyone's opinion's different, but if someone's here on the live stream, that's a really good start. If they've got a GitHub account, that's a good start. Even if you've got one repo with just a markdown file in it, I believe you're already halfway there. Then just create an index.html file with a bit of HTML, CSS, a few lines of HTML, a few lines of CSS, a few lines of JavaScript, you're a web developer. And I know people like to put the term web developer on a pedestal, but end of the day, we're all always learning. That's why we love coding, because things are always changing all the time, especially in web. So the more I learn now, the more I realize how little I know. And that sounds cheesy, but it's so true. What are your thoughts, Praveen and Priya?
Definitely, first go, Priya, you go.
What should I say about that? I don't know.
What would you think? What do you think is, if someone said, how would you categorize a web developer? Would you be somebody who's created a project for themselves, someone who's created a project for somebody else? Like, how would you categorize it in your mind, in your view?
In my mind, web developer is categorizing myself. That means, first of all, we should itself design a website for ourselves. Then only we will be getting clients from the other side, right?
Definitely.
So we should
So
showcase our talents regarding that.
I would say like even a hello world web application, if you are able to do it, then
Uh,
you have started your first step towards being a web developer. And if you want to become a complete web developer, it is you who has to decide what does that mean. So for example,
yeah.
I still feel that I have not got enough experience. The reason being, in my university, when I wanted to finish my do my dissertation, I tried recreating Facebook with some more additional creativity that I had. And because of that reason, I got introduced to Facebook's one of the teams and I started working on React as well, which is actually a good way. Even though it went on like a crazy miscommunication and a kind of like a bad start, I was able to learn a lot. And once again, yeah, I did go to Facebook for an interview, and the moment I found their questions, I was like, wow, I know nothing in web development. So there are like two things. I was so confident that I am the best web developer in the whole galaxy, and then I went into the Facebook interview, and once the interview was over, I'm not even a basic web developer. That was my thought. So everything lies in your thought, the way you see it. And one more thing is, my personal suggestion is like keep trying out something new. So I keep always trying out something new. So what is the latest thing now? Yeah, as Eddie keeps torturing me saying about TypeScript, I want to learn TypeScript. I want to say, yeah, I mean, like personally, I want to say TypeScript is bad because I'm lazy person, but unfortunately, TypeScript has some good things as well. So to say in that level, I have to be good with TypeScript, and then I need to, like if you want to hit a monster, you need to become as a monster, right? So as simple as that.
Yeah.
Kill a fire with a fire or kill a thorn with a thorn. So become what you want to fight with. Your fear, become what you fear of. So that is what I would say.
I
Great
just
to
want
hear
to.
it from you, Praveen.
Oh, sorry.
Right?
Great to hear it from you.
Thank you. And uh, one thing which I wanted to tell us, there is this question. I have heard many companies, not this one. Uh, is there any chance that AI would take place of the web developer and we should drop studying web development for further now? Oh my God, that's such a
They've been
scary
saying
question.
that for like 20 years. I know now it's getting
Okay.
a lot better and a lot closer, but they've been saying it for so long. It will never will. And there's the whole GT3 thing. If you actually use it, you'll see it's a great gimmicky idea, but it can't even create funny memes. It creates memes, but they kind of don't really make sense. And yeah, we're still way off. I think, and someone needs to develop the web platform or the mobile platform to incorporate the AI part and all the rest, because it can't create itself, because then you get Skynet and then we're all doomed. So no, I just don't think it's a problem.
Awesome. And there was one more question, which was really interesting. Um, Hey, Abhijit, you are pulling my leg, man. Okay, look at my LinkedIn. I'm just being me. That's it. Can you share some resources to learn web development which could be of some help? This is Abhishek Sunam has asked for the zillionth time. So I would say going with Free Code Camp and yeah, please subscribe to my videos. There are lots of things. And Eddie has an awesome channel. He has got like super huge things, which Eddie himself will say that.
Yes, so thank you very much for for that, Praveen. Yes, I had a few people subscribe already to my YouTube channel. That's awesome. I do focus on web development and open source. I am getting some people in over the next few weeks to do Flutter, to do Ionic, to do. There is a React one coming up in 2 weeks, and DevOps and CI and CD with GitHub Actions and so forth. So lots of stuff, and open to suggestions. So just leave a comment and let me know what you're looking for.
And one more thing which I got in my mind is I'm very close to my 700th subscriber, so I'm gonna do something special for them by hosting it and giving a internship opportunity in one of my known companies. So yeah, I'm just waiting for my 700th person, and there will be like a super interesting topic to be discussed as well. What do you think about that, Eddie?
Do it. I like it how you're having these milestones. I think that's just awesome, and bringing on different guests.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
really
by the
nice
way,
way to.
I would like to like announce it here. We are hiring Priya.
Oh,
I mean,
oh
like in an internship position.
yeah, it's a golden opportunity for my part to work under
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Awesome. Can you hire me, Praveen, as well, please?
Uh, I need to ask my team. I just had the approval for Priya, but
That's amazing. That's really good news. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
congrats.
When are you
And
starting?
most probably by yeah, tomorrow or today.
Oh, so
Like I
really
mean,
soon.
really soon. Like maybe
Awesome.
Monday will be the right thing. Check your email for
Oh,
the
yeah,
confirmation.
Wow, awesome.
sure.
Yes,
Now
Eddie,
only I'm
I need
getting
to
the
do
information
something.
regarding that.
We are a very small company, definitely. So it would be like almost like your 1 week pay will be the maximum for her, like that for the whole month. I mean, I'm not sure about the pay area because it's not about me. It's not my company, but so so congratulations, Priya.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, this is
Thank
the
you.
first time I'm actually telling like this. So I got the approval from the company, which who said like, okay, just go on, tell them that she's hired. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yes, maybe you can hire Priya as well once she's done with our team. What do you think, Eddie?
Yeah, it depends on what I'm doing at the moment. Things are always changing for me at the time, but we're
Like
connected on
JavaScript, right?
socials, so we'll definitely be in touch. Absolutely. How long is the intern ship that Priya's doing with you?
Did you talk to the manager, the hiring manager? Do you know how long it is? I guess it's totally depending on what Priya requires or her college or university requires. That's what I heard
Okay.
from.
Awesome.
I don't know the specifics. I'm just gonna be like a facilitator. That's it. Actually, I have a day job, so I'm not completely involved with that company, but I'm just trying to help her out. So she was extremely brilliant in WTN, and she was doing a lot of things on the screen, and that's the reason I just suggested. And here you go. You got your approval. Enjoy. Welcome to our
Yeah.
team.
Awesome. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
hearing how that goes.
Right. So, yeah, I guess we are really good, and yeah, yes, Sasi. Maybe we will now. It's a responsibility for Eddie and me to have a think about and try to come up with one another innovative concept for the next week's webinar, and I hope to do one more thing with Eddie. Eddie, are you free next week as well, like or tomorrow?
No, I can't do tomorrow, but maybe next Saturday, same time again if you want.
Next Saturday, same time, if you all are happy to be hosted. And yeah,
Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll be waiting for that awesome session.
excellent.
Cool.
Any other questions from Priya?
Nothing else. You both are awesome.
Thank you. You're awesome too.
You're awesome too. That's why
Thank
you
you.
got a job. There you go.
Yeah. First of
So
all,
so
thank you
Priya,
for
can you
being
can you
being
can you
part of
tell
it.
can you tell your experience to all the upcoming people how you got a job? Go on. This is throwing the ball on you. All right.
First of all, let me thank you all for joining this webinar. And I got job through Praveen Kumar. actually, and
I didn't do
I
anything.
am so
Seriously, I mean, okay. You're going in an off track now. No. I was telling about like tell your experience on WTN.
okay.
How
Fine.
you got how
Women
you
Tech
got
Network.
to that, and also the
Okay.
Drupal thing, right? You got into Drupal one
Yeah.
as well. Yep,
Yeah.
those
Drupal
two things.
Concord. Yeah.
Yeah, go on. Just those
Okay.
two only.
This this lockdown has made me so many opportunities. So I was just googling through it, and I saw a challenge in Women Tech Network regarding the global conference. So around 121 countries were there, and it was hosted in California, and there was a challenge for that. So I got around 181 invites, and I'm currently serving there as the ambassador. So being around 100 invites, I am also serving as the country leader from India as well. So thanks to Anna Rarowski for giving me such a wonderful opportunity. I don't know whether she's here or not.
I don't
And
think
she's
she's
a CEO. Yeah. Okay, fine, cool. And
here.
from Women Tech Network, I got an internship opportunity at Morocco as well. And I interned there one month. It's a company named Innovagit. And they're now expanding that company to Paris as well. And through Women Tech Network, I had been selected as an ideal candidate for DribbleCon scholarship, and I got an opportunity. And I think around 3 candidates were got selected for that scholarship, and I am the lucky person from that. And the conference was on from July 14 to 17, and I got an exciting opportunity to have a live session with the founder of Dribble, that is Drive, and it was one of the golden moments in my life. Yeah, these are my experiences, and what I need to say is that failures made me to do so. I had faced several failures in my lifetime in my 4 year journey. I had to face so many critics from everyone. So this all made me to achieve such great height and to meet both Eddie and Praveen, and that's lucky for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I actually want to add one last thing you just made me think of, if that's okay. I mean, Priya, you're awesome. You're doing this live streaming. You've done so many awesome things. It's great. And I can't wait to see, how your internship goes, to hear all about it. I'll see on socials what you do and what you do afterwards is just going to be awesome. But I want to give a shout out to Mohammed in the chat. And this is a good example of why getting involved is really important. Because Mohammed's been on my channel, he joined the Code Mortals tech quiz last night, and he found a bug in the tech quiz platform, and when I spoke to Andrew after the live stream yesterday, I said, Mohammed, well, don't worry. He said he will log an issue on how he found the bug and how he recreated it, because it was quite complicated. It wasn't like a visual issue. He found the loophole. And it was quite a complicated thing to do, and no one else had found it. It's been going on for a couple of months. And I said, don't worry, Andrew. Mohammed, I've seen his other contributions that he's done on my other projects. He will log a really good issue detailing how he's done it and even potentially a solution. And Andrew was like, really? Most people just raise an issue with a title. And lo and behold, when we woke up this morning, we have an issue, I think like 1-page issue with screenshots, some example code taken out of the view source or the open source project. And it was really detailed. And Andrew and me have already been talking about coming up with a solution, how we should solve it today. And Mohammed's name gets mentioned a lot in those conversations. And so it just shows people that by making contributions, getting involved is really important, because you end up on people's radar. And I think that's so important. I'm sure we're going to mention his name. Well, I'm mentioning it on a live stream now. I'm sure I'll mention it on other calls that I have. And he's picked up so many, reviewing my pull requests on my open source project. He's picked up so many bugs even before they got merged in. I'm thinking, how did I miss that? And that's why we nickname him Eagle Eyes, because he's spotting everything. So anything that adds value, I'm just trying to explain to people, they don't just have to submit code. If you can review someone else's open source pull request and give some, valuable contribution to it, then do that. That's another great way to get involved.
So there are like two things I wanted to ask. So do companies offer internships during this pandemic, which may not end this year, while many employees or interns' job offers are rescinded? This is actually a good question from Lakshman Jaddu, and it is really. I mean, he also wishes to know how to grab an internship in MNCs, which can also which can also offer sponsorships. I I really feel that the whole world is not going to be the same after this. So we will be definitely need to, like, think about what is going to happen next. Like, the world is not the same after this. So how will that be affecting? Like, Eddie, you have more experience in this thing, like a company's head and stuff like that. So what would you do in case of this kind of a question asked to you? What is your feel?
It's a lot of places are trying not to have change at the moment because there's so much uncertainty. With so much uncertainty and so many changing variables, they don't want to add more to the mix. So they're trying not to, a lot of places aren't hiring, aren't spending, and so forth, which I think is wrong. I think now is the time to hire people, to spend people, to invest in the company and so on. I don't think it's stopped. I still see a lot of places hiring. It just, I think, not as much as before with the bigger companies. I think the startups, again, being more forward thinking, are realizing now's the time to grow and accelerate. But for the MNCs, I'm guessing multinational
Multinational
corporations.
companies.
Yeah,
Multinational companies.
they are being a bit, I guess, a bit more careful. I don't think they've stopped. I think they just paused. I think it will also pick up because you're right, it's not going to fix this year. And Praveen's also right that even next year, if it is a lot better, it's still not going to go back to the way it was because it has opened the doors to remote. Lots of, because the companies have had to go remote and been forced to go remote. I think they're realizing the benefit. My wife runs a law firm, and they were against remote and had huge offices, really nice offices, expensive offices. And now they're actually thinking that maybe in the future they don't need such big offices and can actually, do a bit more remote. Maybe not 100%, but at least part-time. So I think in tech, so many companies are realizing that they can get more talented people from a wider reach rather than just looking in their 30 miles or 30 kilometers. Which is probably like 30 miles, like 50 kilometers, but you get the idea. But they can go right around the world, and the world is their oyster, and they can hire talented people that fit and can really help the project from all around the world. So I think it might be a bit slower at the moment, but I think it's going to pick up, and it's going to be really interesting, really, really interesting.
Awesome. That's a nice thought. Maybe I'm not sure how it's gonna work out, but it is it's scary at the same time. Right. Okay, let's what I would say is let's all wish for the best. That's something which I would say, because these things, nothing is in our hands really. And something that is there in my hand, Mohammed Al Rifai. You can't do a live stream on removing jQuery from my profile and replacing it with React and TypeScript. Comparing with jQuery, React and TypeScript are too heavy, and unfortunately or fortunately, TypeScript automatically compiles into JavaScript. So there is nothing called TypeScript. It is a myth. So that's not going to happen. Sorry to disappoint you, man. So it's already in the basic, like bare basic. If you want, you can suggest saying like, let's replace jQuery with vanilla JavaScript. Maybe that might work. And I don't have that, the confidence in doing that at this point. But let's see. That's actually a cool thing. And everyone, I also want to announce something from my end. There is a something winter of code coming up soon, and you all will be notified. I mean, those of you who are following me on LinkedIn, definitely you will be getting to know about it. So keep watching me, and definitely there is something awesome coming. And Eddie, you're gonna lead that as well. So we need you as a huge backbone in that, in doing something like that. We are actually planning to do something huge, like 3 month coding open source stuff. We need a real leader, which is Eddie. So we really need you in that thing. So
We
please,
will
please,
we
please,
will we will chat more, and we will see how I can get involved. It sounds
definitely.
exciting, and don't forget there's Hacktoberfest in October. So don't where GitHub
We are actually
will
trying to merge
find
on
you.
that. So we are starting on September, October until November. So the heart of our Winter of Code will be in Hacktoberfest.
Awesome. Sounds good. And then GitHub and DigitalOcean will send you swag by submitting, I think it's 4 pull requests. So definitely
Yes,
get in the
four
practice of
pull
Notion
requests
from now
every
on.
4 pull requests every year. The criteria changes, and be mindful of their rules and don't violate their rules. Don't get banned.
Exactly. Awesome. We'll
Awesome.
chat
So
more.
I really hope this was informative and we all learned a lot. So now Eddie and I have also another idea about internships for students from India. That's one social cause which we found out. So thanks a lot for bringing it up as an issue. And yeah, that's actually a good thing. Um, what do you think, Priya? Do you want to give the final words and let's.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining this session. I think you all enjoyed this session and if you have any queries regarding this again, please reach out to Praveen. And moreover, Eddie Jaoude is an open source fanatic. He itself in his WhatsApp status was coding, coding, coding. I thought he's born with coding. And also Praveen Kumar. His body is made up of HTML and CSS, and this all made me to know more about both of them.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
Priya,
much for
for
that.
hosting us.
Yeah, and thank you for
Yeah,
hosting. Thank you for everyone for
Oh,
joining. It was awesome to have great
thank you all.
yeah.
questions and great conversations.
Thank you
Awesome,
all.
awesome, awesome.
Should we give a wave? And then I'll put the holding screen up.